Welcome to True Print for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera.
And I'm your co-host, Maylin Sambois.
Well, welcome back for another exciting episode. We always get excited to have such dynamic guest speakers just because, as you know, as our platform, we're very intentional about trying to find experts or people who just have a lot of great life experience, insight, tips, and tools. And today's episode will be nothing short of that. We are honored to have Miss Rolanda Hampton.
Hello.
Welcome joining us here today. And so, Rolanda, I was reading your bio and I'm like, wow.
Yes.
I mean, we're just honored to have you. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to share with our listeners just a little bit. I'm not going to tell them everything you've done, but I mean, you are presently serving as the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. You're a part of the Diversity and Inclusion and Engagement Officer there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Also a part of so many things related to just community strategies, branding, public involvement. It seems you started your career back in public service through the Ohio Treasurer of State.
Yes.
Wow. So you've had so many, a lot of experience, both in the private sector, sounds like in the nonprofit sector. A lot of stuff is related to just our political landscape. And it shows here more of 13 years in public and private sectors, spanning from human resources, diversity, inclusion, economic development, community engagement. I mean, literally, you have so much amazing stuff that I'm sure you'll be sharing with us. And you're also a mom and a wife.
Yes.
And so welcome. We're excited just to learn more about you. And so this bio really just says a lot about you as an individual. And it sounds like you're very much into service and education.
Yes, absolutely.
So share with us, where does that come from? Did you always kind of know this was the sphere of work that you would be in?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And first, just again, thank you for having me. Thank you, Maylin, for reaching out and asking if I could be a guest today. I'm very excited about it. I, know Maylin for years, and I've just always admired you and things that you do in the community and, with your organization and Femergy. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
But, honestly, so first, hi, my name is Rolanda. Born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. So I think, to answer your question as far as community and service, this is my community. This is where I was born and raised. I grew up from. And my mother, I think she instilled in me just as far as giving back and just, those ties to the community. So I grew up on the Near East side of town. I grew up in Old Town East, right around the corner from the King Lincoln Center. And, my mother just really put us in all types of different programs and services. I mean, we were always active and involved, regardless if it was with our school or if it was an after school program. And I think, from that, just really looking around and just saying, well, what can I do to make a difference? That is just really started as a young age and then just kind of, trickled into an adult now. And like you said, as far as my roles, majority of my work it has been in public service. So I think obviously that has a lot to do with my work in the community, obviously, as well. But I just enjoy it. I really like it. I love working for the people and just to help people and just really giving back, trying to make a difference.
Absolutely. And I love that you said just kind of that exposure that you had when you were younger, being involved, having opportunities through after school programs.
Right.
And so do you feel like just as you were kind of thinking back to those different exposures, was there something specific that you remember from your childhood, like a program or a mentor or something that you saw that was like, I think this is what I would want to do, or how did that experience shape you into some of the stuff you've now been able to accomplish as an adult?
Well, a couple things. So first, I always wanted to be a news reporter and a news anchor. So I didn't go down that path, clearly. And my message to just young people would be really to just follow your heart, follow your dreams. And I will say that is something that my parents, if I wanted to be an astronaut, my mom would say, sweetie, you are smart, you're intelligent, you're brilliant, go for it. But honestly, I think sometimes we kind of get in our own insecurities, and I didn't really pursue that field, because it was just a lot. It was really even hard trying to land an internship. I remember applying for several years, NBC, CBS, and I said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore because it's just so demanding in that field. It can be kind of cutthroat. So I just went on to another route, because there were all other things that I was interested in. And so, honestly, I really wanted to go into business marketing or administration or communications, something. And just growing up, I interned at Nationwide. And there was a program, I was an intern there probably for about 4 years straight. And just really being able to see people like Donna James and people who were, fearless Black women running this entire multi-million-dollar organization. I said, you know what? I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I know that I want to do something to help people. And I know that I just want to be a bad, because sometimes, I don't know, people, they do feel like, oh, well, you can't have it all. Like, you can't have an awesome career. You can't be a mom and a wife and things. And I do believe in balance. So I think that you can, there just has to be a balance.
Yeah. And you're a great mom. And I seen you, like, you're not a reporter, but every time I see you somewhere, you have a mic in your hand. I'm like, what is she doing here? Right? So you always, like, the events that you put on, right? You put really big events and you manage that. So does that kind of fulfill a little bit the love of journaling, right? Like, you want it to be?
It does fulfill that. And thank you, Maylin. And I think, for me, as much as I love people and just being in front of people and, kind of at events and talking and things, it really makes me nervous. And so, and I think that's normal. I mean, you hear people like Beyonce, you hear her saying she gets nervous before she goes out on stage.
Yeah. So I feel normal.
Yeah,
right?
So it is normal.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I love public speaking, but it does make me nervous.
I know. It's so true. I don't think that ever goes away either.
It doesn't.
It doesn't go away.
Not for me. I'll be calling her like, why did I say yes to that? Like,
Yes.
the day before, I'm like, what am I going to say?
I know.
And then I come on like, well, that was amazing. Like, I should always do this, but not the night before.
Right.
So you talk about balance, right? You having the career, you having the families, right? So when did you decide that it was okay for you to have both, right? Because I think women are told you got to work on your career first, and then you can have a family or have the family and then worry about the career. When did you make the decision for you that it was right to have a family, right? And a very driven husband, and then also build your career and kind of work on you?
That's a great question. I think, so I'll be honest, for me, we got married young, we had our children young. So I was 23 years old when I had Kennedy. That's, we have Kennedy and KJ. And just as a young mother, I was starting out with a quote unquote, just a job. It wasn't necessarily my dream job or something, but I always knew that I wanted more. Obviously I wanted to provide for them. Thankfully I do have a good husband who he has a provider mindset. So there were times when, I worked for elected officials and yes, I got laid off and, I had the opportunity. He's like, oh, well, forget it. If you don't want to work, don't work. You can be a stay-at-home mom. And I'm like, at first I was thinking, stay-at-home mom. Here I am, watch my mother work 2 and 3 jobs if she had to do that just to provide for my sister and I. So, I think like, well, what is that? Who stays at home these days?
Yeah.
But sometimes you just do what you have to do. And it can be challenging having young children, and childcare was just so expensive. And I remember one point in time, I was just part-time, trying to get another role that was full-time with benefits and things. And I said, listen, by the time I get paid, with the cost of childcare, I don't have much left. So I just stayed home for a little bit and I enjoyed it. I did. So I was grateful for that opportunity. But again, I just always wanted to be able to just provide for the children, or at least just to help in that aspect.
Yeah. And I think which is very frustrating, I feel like, because I don't feel like society pressures men to have to figure out life in the way that they do us women.
Exactly.
And the fact that we've always had to have this like, oh, do I have the career? Do I have the kids? How do I have both? It's frustrating and it's very, very hard, because I think that's like, why do you ask men these questions, or is it automatically assumed that and there's wonderful fathers out there that are super active, super involved. So I'm not saying that. I think it's just this culture that we are placed on this different kind of spectrum as to like, well, how are you going to handle both?
Right.
And I have found, even as a professional and also a mom of 3, I'm transparent about the fact that sometimes you just get it wrong. You fail, and I think that that's a pressure that as working mothers, whether you have children or you're caring for a parent, or, if you're just caring for yourself sometimes, like that's enough that, we can't always put so much pressure on ourselves to feeling like we have to have it all figured out. Like if I'm winning at work, it's possible I'm failing in my household. Like I always know if I'm winning at work, depending on what my house looks like. I'm walking like, oh, everything's dirty. The laundry is piled up, but I got all my emails done. I was in 20 meetings. And then it's the opposite, when I'm all home and closed up and, everything is in order, I get back to work and I'm behind.
3,000 emails.
Yeah. So it's,
you're absolutely right. It's really just all about balance. Honestly, I was talking to a friend and she was struggling with the fact that her son is going to kindergarten and she feels like she's not a quote unquote good mom. What is that? But she's not a good mom because she feels that she doesn't make enough time for him. And I just told her, just start small. For me, my son, he loves to read, but that's because ever since he was an infant, a newborn, I would read with him almost every night. And still to this day, he's in the 4th grade. And, granted, we don't read every night like we used to, but I try it. If it's not every night, it's every other night.
Right.
And even if it's just one chapter a day, my son, a year ago, his teacher wanted to skip him grades, his grade level because of his reading. He was reading off the charts. And so just long story short, just things like that. Just make time for your children, regardless if you are at the dinner table every night. I have a rule, no phone zone. So I just implemented that. No phone zones, no tablets. So that way you can be, intentional about having that time. Talk to each other. How was your day? And just things like that.
Yeah.
How do you, because you look amazing, right? Because you work hard, you have a family. How do you, what do you do for like your health, and wellness to stay there?
So I love to work out. Honestly, I don't work out as much as I should, but I think having children who love to work out, that helps too. So my daughter, both my children, they play basketball. My son plays football. And at one point, Kennedy, she was working out 4 days a week. And I said, listen, if she's working out 4 days a week, I need to work out at least 3. Just really, they keep me young. Honestly, I'm not afraid to say I'll be 40 next year. Nice. And I have a dog. He's 11, but we run 3 miles, maybe we were doing, 3 days a week, but now it's probably only 2 days a week, but still just things like that. It just helps to keep us active and keep me young, and we love to swim. And even if it's just a walk, I was encouraging someone the other day. I said, listen, with the weather changing and it's not as hot, I said, at work, you need to take time for yourself. I said, sometimes I do have a habit of just kind of being at my desk all day, but no, we need to be intentional. Please take 5, 10, 15 minutes, take a walk and bring your tennis shoes, leave them at work. That's what I do. So when I have time, you'll see me walking around downtown.
I like that.
Someone called me. They said, I see you walking. I was like, I'm just taking a little break, Sometimes you need to do that. Take a break, get some fresh air. And
the job that you have now, does it provide you the flexibility, right? Did you have to ask for that, or was that given to you?
It does. And honestly, that's one thing that I'm really grateful for, because I've had pretty demanding jobs where I've never had a chance to work from home. I've been accustomed to working in the office every day for a majority of my life. And I'm like, I need to find something else. At one point, I'm thinking, should I become a teacher? Because I need the summers off. I need more time to hang out with my kids. So I am thankful that my job now, we are hybrid. So we go in 3 days a week, 2 days at home.
Nice.
And I love that because, it gives me the opportunity to, I'm there when the kids get home and things like that. So I am grateful for that. And honestly, it started during COVID. So I think more employers, they are realizing that you can still be productive and still work from home. I know that's a big argument. That's a big debate right now. Some people, they don't feel that way. But I think you can, and I think that America, we've proven that you can be successful working from home. So allow people to work from home.
I agree. This is the call to action for all the employees. I feel like I work harder from home than I ever did at any office.
Oh my gosh, I agree.
Because sometimes you look up and it's 7, 8 o'clock, and you're like, why am I still checking emails? Close the computer.
It's true.
You're right.
And we're seeing such a so many people are hiring. Like I feel like everybody's hiring right now, and I think to your point, I think with COVID, a lot of us really realized what was important, what was priority, and being able to, work from home. And like you said, we proved that we could do it. And so then as soon as COVID started to lift, then, it was this, oh, come back to the office, forget the systems and the balance and the family time that you were able to manage. And so as you are kind of, in this space of being able to have this hybrid experience, what do you find, at least I know with the stuff you do in the community and you're very, engaged in different ways, what are you finding as some of the best, as people who are thinking about navigating their careers or making that decision? Do I leave my job if they're not willing to accommodate? Like, this is a new wave of the workforce.
Right.
And I think a lot of us are really struggling to figure out, how do I fit, especially the ones that are just graduating college or just entering the workforce.
Yep.
Some of the students we have served in our programming, they're just like, I feel like I've been preparing for a workforce that no longer exists. And so what are you finding or seeing just to kind of in these different public and private spheres as it relates to workforce?
That's an excellent question. First, I would tell people to be smart. You have to make wise decisions. And I say that because sometimes people, let's just be honest, people don't want to work 9 to 5 every day. They're, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to work for myself. Okay, that's great. But at the end of the day, you also need benefits. You also need healthcare. You need, dental and medical and things. So that's why I tell people you have to be realistic. You also have to pay for your bills. How are you going to cover your rent, your expenses if you don't have, income coming in? So sometimes I just tell people to still, maybe take that job and then pursue, whatever your entrepreneurship is or just whatever your passion is. If you feel that that's not where you are right now as far as your career and your job, maybe pursue that afterwards. And then, in your spare time, and then when you're able to completely walk away where you're not depending on that, because, that's just my thing. I've seen people become evicted, because they no longer have that guaranteed income and things. So you just want to make wise decisions.
Yeah. And the line of work with the Mid-Ohio, I mean, as we know, we're having a housing crisis right now. And it's not just here in Central Ohio. I feel like it's happening all over the place. Rent is at an all-time high. The real estate market is like at a triple fold in terms of purchase prices and people doing appraisal gap coverages and things. So is there any insight you have as it relates to just what do folks do as far as this housing market goes and how can they learn more about even like tenants' rights and things of that nature?
I'm glad you asked me that. So prior to working for MORPC, that's the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, I used to work for City Council and I was on their housing committee. So we work very closely with Legal Aid Society and they help tenants and just residents with those type of rights. So I would encourage anyone to please reach out to the Legal Aid Society. That's a really good starting point to help individuals with rental assistance. I know there are also other organizations such as Impact, they help with utilities and things. So there are resources out there. You just have to kind of seek them if you are unaware.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So in your life, if you had to give advice to that young girl, right? Like you were 23 at one point, right?
Yeah.
Not too long ago. What would you share, like some of your probably biggest life lessons that you have learned that you wish you knew back then?
Yeah, that's great. So I think, first, I'm just grateful for, like I said, just having parents that just kind of stood behind me and just, my mother would always encourage me to just, and my father. My father passed away when I was a senior in high school, so that's why half the time you hear me refer to my brother because, he died when I was younger. But they were both just really just telling me and my sister, I mean, you can do whatever it is that you want to do, just be successful. My parents, they always would say, education is key. So they would encourage us to just please get your education. And I tell people, if you don't have your 4-year degree, okay, that's fine. I understand college isn't for everyone, but just to maybe get a trade or just kind of, figure out what are your dreams and your goals and really write it down, come up with a plan on how you can pursue them. But that's just what I would tell someone who is younger, to just really focus on what it is that you want to do, because time flies and time waits for no one. And you're going to look up and you're going to be almost 40 like myself, and you're going to say, oh, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But, my mother would always say, make sure you pay yourself first, like, retirement accounts and things like that. Sometimes that's things that people don't really talk about, wills and life insurance. We don't want to talk about those type of things, but I would just tell younger folks to just prepare yourself for your future because it's coming and it'll be here before you know it. So, you just have to prepare and plan.
Yeah. And even if you're a little bit more seasoned, you know, it's never too late to just start to make those transitions.
Right.
I think especially with COVID, like we are finding so many people making like career transitions. People that have been in corporations or the same industries for 20 years suddenly are like, I'm done with this and I want to essentially start all over.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think sometimes there's a lot of pressure behind, you know, starting over or feeling like, oh, I'm doing this so late in the game. But like you said, it's just about, you know what, just start and have the plan, have the intention. And do you find, I know you mentioned your parents a lot. Did you have a lot of just different mentors or coaches like along your professional journey?
Yes, I did. I did have a lot of mentors. I think it started out, you know, when I was younger working for Nationwide, I saw people like Donna James. But then as I got older working for the city of Columbus, you know, your mentor can also be who you report to or someone who's a friend. So my last job at city council, I worked with, well, she's now a judge. She was the youngest judge in Franklin County. Her name is Jiza Page. So, you know, she's someone also who, if I ever need anything or, you know, if you just need some good, solid advice, I would reach out to Jiza. Or, you know, now I'm grateful I work for a director. Her name is Neil Jurist. Or, you know, again, when I was at the city, there were people like Don Tyler Lee. So I think there are a lot of good, powerful women and men in my corner who I could call and who I could reach out to if I ever needed something. And I look up to them as far as mentors.
I love that she said that because some people are always like, where do I find a mentor? Like, I don't know where to find somebody. And it's like you said, it could be people you work with, people you respect, or somebody that you look up to and say, like, I really like your leadership style. Or I like what you've done.
Yes,
and so
I admire you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not awkward to say that to people. I think there's so much self-doubt. Like, oh, what do I say? How do I approach this person? And to your point, there's so many good people that do just want to be able to pour into others.
Yeah, and there's many people that are your mentors. They don't know you're your mentors because you know they're your mentors. You haven't told them they're your mentors, but if I'm taking you to coffee once a month, you're my mentor.
And that's just for those we're in a relationship right now.
Yes, we have a relationship. You just don't know.
Yeah. And you really have to cultivate those relationships. That's something that I think that's important too. Because I know sometimes with me, I'll look and be like, oh, I haven't talked to this person in a couple of months. But, you know, the love is still there. They're genuine and, you know, it's mutual. They know that. But, make sure you're reaching out to people.
So building relationships, right? I think that's we have found that in some of our episodes that's a really important key.
Exactly.
Right? So maybe your mom, because she was so intentional about working 3 days. I met your mom. She's amazing. So, you know, for you, you had to build those relationships also, right? To get you from one position to the next, to the next, and where you are now. Was there one particular relationship that you found that was like the catalyst to where you are today?
Probably the relationship with my mother. You know, I have a very strong relationship with my mom. I talk to her probably 3-4 times a day. There was one point Kenny would say, you know, you guys are like the Kardashians. Like, you talk to each other all the time. Why do you talk to your mom so often? I said, that's what girls do.
Yeah, true. Absolutely.
That's just how it is. But, you know, for her, I guess technically somewhat like being the single mom, you know, and just raising 2 daughters really on her own. I just always admire her. So, yeah.
That's beautiful that you have that beautiful relationship with your mama. Now, you have accomplished a lot of things, right? In the eyes of the world, people are probably looking up to you to be like, I want to be a little bit like you. Where are you going next? Do you have plans of what's next for you?
Wow, where am I going next? So, technically, one thing, I don't really get caught up in the titles. And I remember I used to work with elected officials and my last quote unquote boss. She's like, you know, it's not really about the title. It's just about your purpose and your leadership and what are you doing to really help people. So for me, I am a diversity officer. That's my title. So technically I am in leadership, but I've always seen myself, you know, being maybe, I guess, on the director level. So that's where I would like to go next as far as career-wise.
That's awesome. I was like, where you take it? I'm like, no, because they're going to listen to this and then think, is she going somewhere else? I don't want to start problems right now. But we'll talk offline just to see what steps you're taking to get to that director level for sure. Yeah.
Well, you know, that makes me think it's all about personal development. Like, that's what Kenny says all the time, and I'll have to agree with him. I mean, it's all about how are you sharpening yourself? What are you doing to make yourself better? And it's not even about, you know, better than the next person, but just your better self. What are you doing to help improve yourself? So I do want to go back to get my master's. You know, at one point in time, years ago, I was like, oh, do I want to go to law school? And I just kind of played around with that. So that is next. I want to go to law school at the Ohio State University. That's where I'm going to go.
Okay.
Yeah,
She's looking for a scholarship, guys.
Yes. My dad, he played for the Buckeyes and played under Woody Hayes and stuff. So I always, I love all things HBCUs, and that's where I went to receive my undergrad. But definitely for grad school, I want to go to Ohio State.
That's wonderful. Yeah, well, you can do it. We believe in you.
Yes. I need to stop dragging my feet and apply.
It's all about the right season, right? It'll happen when it's supposed to. And we interviewed your husband probably last year sometime, and we had the opportunity to talk a little bit about his book. And he mentioned a lot. And so when you mentioned like that conversation you and him had about just the development piece, it made me think about just the power, not only in the relationships that you have in corporate America, but also your personal relationships. And so I met him a few times. I read the book. And so just understanding the mindset as to what I'm sure conversations are like in your household every single day. How much of an impact does that make in terms of just like who you really spend your time with, and just being able to have an accountability partner who is someone who seems to be very focused on that personal development? Like how has that played a part in a lot of your personal growth?
I think it really means everything. It plays a huge part in, speaking of that, Kenny always says things along the lines of, associate with people who you want to be like, or who do you see yourself, growing into, or things. And I'm not saying, don't ditch all your old friends, but just kind of who do you look up to?
Yeah.
And so that is something. First of all, I joke around with Kenny. I call him Dr. Phil because he has all the best advice and everything, And, I kid around with him. But yeah, I mean, that is a good point. And if you haven't read The Underdog Mentality, then please, y'all should read it. That was his first personal self-published book. So there are a lot of gems in there.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are so cute because he mentioned you. He was giving you all these kudos. I'm like, we have to have her here because he was like, he attributes a lot of his success to you.
Oh,
right? Like he knows that. I think, every person knows, like behind every great man, there's a powerful, dope woman behind, right?
Yeah.
And he was really, gracious to share that about you when he was here. And I know you, so I'm like, yeah, you're right. You lucky, right?
Well, I feel the same way. And honestly, we're going to celebrate 15 years of marriage in November.
Wow.
So I'm like,
happy anniversary.
Thank you. Yes, I'm dragging him. We're going to go to Tulum. So I'm excited and looking forward to it. He works so hard and he works around the clock, and he's like, where are we going? And
do we really gotta go?
I'm like, yes. So it'll be nice. It'll be fun sometimes to just unwind and unplug. And he always wants to take the kids, which obviously we love the kids. We're like, we need a break with just us. We're going to leave the kids.
I tell you, leave those kids.
Leave the children.
We said leave those kids.
Right. So we'll miss them, but next time we'll take them somewhere next time. So.
Yes.
I love that.
Wow, 15 years. Congratulations. That's beautiful.
And that's also, it's funny. I was watching this TikTok clip of this couple. They have been married 50 years or something like that. And I guess the person had asked them, what's the secret to a long marriage? His description and her description, although it was a similar message, it was very different. And he said, well, I told her the day I married her that if we have a fight, I'm fine with sleeping on the couch, but she's not going to her mother's house and I'm not going to my mother's house. And we're not telling anybody what's happening in our household. Yeah. And she was like, that's not the right answer. And so then she goes and says, marriage, even, she said, whether it's up or down, it's not always going to be butterflies in your stomach. It's not always going to be this madly in love, but there is a decision, she said, a decision and a commitment that I am going to stick it out with this person.
Yes, absolutely.
And she said, every situation is different, but she said, if it's a relationship that that this person is truly your partner, whether it's a lovely thing. She's like, it's not about that. It's about every day waking up and making a decision to say, you are my person, and we're going to rock this out together. And I thought that was I sent it to my husband, and I was expecting some type of response, and he never responded.
He was like, this is what I tell you. What did he say? This is what I tell you every time.
I was like expecting him to be like, wow, that was deep. He didn't say anything. And actually now I'm going to go home and be like, you didn't get my TikTok the other day. Because I think this world has turned into such I think Instagram and all these like these things have really kind of changed our mind as to like realistic expectations of what it means to have, commitment, not only just in business and in corporate America, but just being able to really even find a relationship that you're able to say, listen, it's not about the $20,000 purse and the flowers. It's about a partnership. And so I love that you and Kenny have built that in 15 years, and I mean, nothing is perfect, but when you find your person that you feel like you can have that with, I think it does make all the difference in how people are able to kind of build and be happy in that space.
Yes, I would definitely agree with you. And that's one thing, we always try to be open and just transparent with people, because people tell us that all the time. Oh my goodness, you all look like you have the perfect marriage and you're just picture perfect. And I'm like, there's no such thing. There's no such thing as a perfect marriage. We're human. We all have flaws and things. So we have our ups and downs too. And it's funny, I was cracking up in my head because, I don't know, long years ago when we were first married, I would get upset and say, well, fine, I'm going to my mom's.
Right.
And he said, you're not going to your mom. So one time I did, and my mom says, you need to go back home.
Yeah.
You don't live here. Go back home with your husband.
You don't live here no more.
Yeah, so it's funny. But you have to have good people in your corner too, who, would tell you that, like, you need to go back home. But,
you need those friends.
Funny, exactly.
You need those friends. Oh, this was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, and I think it's just so amazing to see people who are in their purpose, and just like meeting you today, reading about your journey, and just hearing your commitment, to service. And I just love to see like all of the different arenas that you've been able to have impact on, and especially now in the work that you're doing is such a critical thing as we are seeing housing crisis and just so many people that I think are feeling like this new wave of this. It's not even a normal anymore. Like, we don't really know what's happening with the economics and the economy as a whole. So I just really appreciate the work that you do and the work that you've done, because I think it's community servants like you that really help the community in ways that you don't maybe always get the thank yous you deserve or just the credit for that. But we appreciate that. And then if at any point you have an update about things related to housing or anything that we can share with our listeners, like, we would love to have you, just to come talk about resources and stuff.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and this has been fun. This is helping me to, in my mind, it's like, oh, I'm a news anchor now. I'm a reporter. So.
There you are. Yeah, you're reporting on the community. Yes.
But thank you so much. This has been fun. And Kenny and I, we always talk about too, like, oh, we need to get a podcast. So I love this. Kudos to you. This is awesome. It's exciting. So thank you.
Yes, if you want to do it, you can do it.
Yes, absolutely. And like we always like to say here at True Print when we close every episode, it's bigger than you.
Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited, and we hope that you follow us on
Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, like, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.